I'm Alex Jonathan Brown, Senior Content Strategist at Iron Horse, and whether you know it or not, your go to market campaigns really only have two goals: get discovered and then get chosen. When we say it like that, it sounds really straightforward. So, why do so many companies have such a hard time getting results from their GTM campaigns? We wanted to know, so we asked them. With our friends at Demandbase and the ABM Leadership Alliance and a little help from Gatepoint Research, we surveyed 91 B2B marketing leaders at companies doing more than $250 million in revenue. To dive into the results of that survey, we got Iron Horse CEO Uzair Data and Demandbase VP of Growth Janelle Kuntz together. We're bringing you a condensed version of that conversation, shortened a bit so you can get the key takeaways and then get back to driving results for your own company. First up, 97% of marketers think their strategy is effective, but only 33% say they're executing consistently. Uzair and Janelle, take it away.
To me, this is really interesting that the spread is incredible. That means what we are projecting versus how we're feeling is very different. And there's a host of reasons that go underneath it. I don't know if this is I have a strategy and maybe that's kind of, I feel good about, but I don't really know how to do it right. And I think that's what we're going to unpack. I think, Janelle, it'd be cool to see you coming now and taking the helm over at Demandbase. How are you guys thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for marketers, understanding the go-to-market strategy, there's a lot of change management typically. There's a lot of cross-functional collaboration. I have some thoughts about why there is this spread. I think number one, it could be that does the entire go-to-market team have the same strategy? Like are we marching all in the same direction? And do we have conviction in the strategy that we're relying on each other for? I think the other is, if you can't execute your strategy, I don't know that it's effective. When putting strategy together, you can see like a big piece of the work is like, can we actually do this? And I think a lot of companies are very optimistic in their go-to-market strategy, are very optimistic in the targets that they're setting. And on paper, you can write down like, if we do the math of this, then we'll land here. But there's not as much time spent on the execution, obviously. And a lot of that, I believe, comes from the collaboration between go-to-market teams and a true understanding of how long some of these things take, like getting people on board, getting in the same place, getting the same numbers, like that can take a month. And that's just a very, very small piece. It's like the foundation of your strategy. So I find this very, very interesting and on some level, not surprising.
If there's one area where the gap between what we think we can do and what we're actually doing is most obvious right now, it might be AI. 44% of companies say they're only using it for a few specific tasks, and 0% of the companies we asked say their marketing is fully AI driven.
I mean, I think this sort of is pretty representative of reality. I mean, we work with a ton of different customers in this category. And I think it's pretty representative. If you look at sort of your classic leaders, followers, and laggards, you sort of have maybe 5%, maybe getting to 10% that are starting to do stuff. Most of that sits in a early stage startup. Some enterprises are doing stuff, but sort of that's kind of the cohort. You have followers that are doing a lot of this. Those are your first two or three kind of moderate use and limited use kind of categories. And then I'd say 40 to 50% are still lagging in their use cases. Now, the use cases are very different. AI for sure is becoming table stakes, even in, I'd say, Rust Belt companies. People are doing stuff. People are starting to use it in different forms or manner. The sort of teams that are going beyond using AI for search, so really kind of thinking about research, which is sort of what it's really good at, and workflow automation, are starting to get an edge. Agentic is new. People are experimenting, driving sort of core interesting use cases there around refining their audiences so they're not spraying and praying. We are doing that a lot using platforms like Demandbase. And then for us, one of the best use cases is the ability to take all this disparate data layer it in, and then use an orchestration engine like Demandbase to make other things smarter. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where we are seeing some interesting use cases. Janelle, what are you doing internally and what are you seeing your customers do?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty representative. I think it's also really interesting to dig into what people believe using AI means. I think
Yeah.
there's a spread between I'm logging in ChatGPT every day to help me with some content versus using it in more strategic ways like orchestration versus using it to free up time for your marketing team. I think there's consistently going to be a human in the loop. I would say for at least the next year or two
Yeah.
until we feel some level of confidence and hands off the wheel. And you find people with all levels of comfort in some of the different applications. I would say, within demand base, we're focused on AI for outcomes.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to have like a co-partner, you know what I mean? A thought leader, a research tool. There's so much potential in AI to actually drive outcomes for marketers. I think one of the things I talked to our product team about when I joined about 6 weeks ago was that, I see AI as a way for marketing to be able to get back to marketing. We spend a lot of time in spreadsheets. We spend a lot of time connecting dots. We spend a lot of time digging in and researching and trying to find those insights that we can action. I frankly would love to get back to actioning insights versus digging into spreadsheets. I would love for my team to have that capability. And I think as marketers are evaluating AI and they're thinking about this level of bringing AI into their org, don't be limited by the basics because there's some really powerful tools that are helping to not just drive insights but drive outcomes, and I think that's the level of expectation we should have too. I mean, marketers have an opportunity to drive development of AI right now, and if you're leaning into it, like, you'll find those opportunities, and I think you'll find some really exciting potential for marketing in the near term.
AI technology is moving fast, but your team may not be. 49% of respondents said they struggle with cross-team coordination, and 47% said they can't create campaign assets fast enough.
Every time we talk to our customers, they say, you own lots of Ferraris and Lamborghinis in your parking lot, but you're driving back and forth to your grocery store. You don't know how to drive it. They're just sitting there. And so you have the technology, and because I'd say technology is sort of the easiest thing for people to point to and replace when they're trying to solve a problem. And then they don't think about everything that is needed to systematize the process to enable it. Along the way, the technology stacks that have been there oftentimes are much more than what we need. So we use 10% or 15% or 20% of what's in it. So between good stacks that are not being utilized, good stacks that are not connected, and then the functional organizational silos that lead to 80 Slack messages to discuss something that you can get on the call for 2 seconds or have a daily stand up and get it solved, just kill the agility, right? Because it's just siloed. Janelle, you do this for demand base and before, so like, what's your take on this?
I mean, this is very, like, to me, it's very fair feedback, very much where marketing teams get held up. And I think, the cross team coordination is not just the functions that we have within marketing, but there's a lot of collaboration that needs to happen across the really the entire company. And I think part of that is because marketing can be momentum for an organization, and it's fun and it's exciting and it's important to share what we're doing and what's our message, what are the campaigns. Marketing is also always and will forever get feedback from the entire organization. And so, I think this will always exist. I really do. I think it can take different levels, maybe. I think there's different ways to handle it, but you need to walk in knowing this is going to happen. And then the creative for campaigns, that I think there's a lot of new, solutions popping up to solve for this. I'm seeing a lot of like iterative campaign where, swapping things in and out, but you still need expertise on your creative team. You still need like the template. So I think too, I'm seeing like this bias to using AI for content and design. And I think there's going to be a swing back because I think having more of a proprietary brand and a more differentiated brand and very strong visuals, coupled with a brand team that understands how to scale, understands how to templatize, understands how to like support the team so that they can iterate on their creative. You need that skill now. And if you're not thinking about that now, you are going to fall behind.
Another area where companies are worried about falling behind is paid media. There's big budgets, big activity, and not always a lot of pipeline. When asked what would help their paid media program produce a stronger, more valuable pipeline, 46% of companies asked for something that seems so simple: attribution clarity.
I have owned pipeline, particularly in my demand gen roles. So it doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't like from my perspective, what I care about is hitting the number and understanding how we're creating quality pipeline, that it's converting into revenue, and how do we keep doing it. So at the highest level, I think if that's your alignment with your executive team and they kind of have trust that that's what you're trying to do, you have a little bit more wiggle room. But it that shows up in your like weekly grind and your understanding of pipeline metrics and that sort of a thing. I would say more specifically, if you look at paid media, I think the reason it's probably a little bit disappointing is typically a huge chunk of everyone's budget. And there's levers that you can pull, but you're sometimes at the whim of Google. There's a few publishers I think that work really well, and then you're constantly trying some of the other ones. And as marketers, I think for a channel to take up so much of your budget and probably generates a lot of, I would guess, last touch opportunities, you're not driving demand, you're capturing it. And at the end of the day, if you own pipeline and you own outcomes and you own quality revenue, you have to go and drive this demand. It's not enough to just kind of wait for it to come into your funnel via capturing, last touch paid. So this again resonates with me, but I look at our paid investment as opportunities to test messaging, opportunities to find out how the market's behaving, opportunities to figure out like what are the conversations we having in these demo requests coming from paid, because those are typically people that are closer to in market. So for that much money, you should be getting way more than I would say even just pipeline out of your channel.
Yeah, I think this is a largely alignment issue. You got execs that have communicated, I'd say, vanity metrics to what they will produce. And now the boards and the executive teams expect that to happen. We haven't done a good job educating, especially in the enterprise side, of what to expect in this space. So there's a lot of that. So it's awesome, Janelle, that you're doing that. But the vanity metrics are pervasive across the world. Second, we don't spend enough time, and we touched on this on the earlier side around GTM alignment. It's usually not even just within marketing, between sales and marketing, aligning on the audience. The number of conversations where we've talked about this is what we're going to do, but when we actually do it, and then the three words that I hate hearing from the sales team is, this lead sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Why does it suck? What is it? Because we were not aligned. This came from an account that we are targeting that we jointly agreed on. It's the persona we wanted. It sucked because you called them 2 times, but they didn't follow up. Well, and you need to call them 25 times in different ways today to get them to pay attention. There's so much that's broken, but I think if you spend a little bit of more time on the audience refinement side, a lot of good happens. I think the other thing that we don't do is we spend all this time catching and acquiring these people and people's attention to get them to our website, to be discovered off domain. Mm-hmm. And then we bring them to our website to get chosen. But the chosen path is completely broken. The on-ramp to our web experience is terrible. So we go from a personalized ad talking to someone in healthcare to when they come to your website, you're just one size fits all. Mm-hmm. So on-ramps are completely broken. So I think we're going to unpack that more, but I think there's just so much here that can go right. But I think this is a place where people, functional silos and obsession on attribution is also killing some of the kind of innovation that could happen.
You know what makes paid media less effective? If you don't have content. 42% of respondents say they're missing content for key buying journey stages, and 30% can't figure out how to repurpose what they already have.
It seems easy. I think this is another situation where we sometimes have a hard time getting out of our own way. And every single place I've been has had an incredible library of content. And yes, we could repurpose it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's driving our SEO, AEO, GEO. Like there's value in the library, but there's just this need for fresh consumption, right? Like there's something new to say. There's a different way we should say it. There's a different way we should present it. And when the content team, depending on how they're KPI'd, it's like, we need more content. We need more content. We need more content. How much time do they have to go back and audit what we've already done, to map it to the different buying journeys? I think content teams are also getting a lot of pressure to use AI to possibly be smaller. And it's another area where you have to make a decision, right? Because content is also what's driving the kind of transformation and how we're showing up in LLMs. That's not happening in a lot of other areas. And so if you aren't looking at your content org as a strategic lever, and you're thinking instead of like volume-based content, then you're probably missing a trick. And that's, I think, why it's showing up here as well.
I think there is a combination of things. You're writing for humans and LLMs. And so you have to now think of content in two-tiered manner. One is very structured. One can be very unstructured.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to have not just the content, but the systems to enable that. And this is not just the markup language that the system needs to do. It's also making readable content to LLMs so you get discovered as part of the research process through LLMs. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to, that's a completely new motion that exists. I think there's also, this as we touched on, is being binary about AI content is bad and humans can write better. There is a assistive process of this, from a looking and researching information, looking at the data of what content is working or not working, that can assist you to do more things better. It can unlock ideation. I mean, to me, the ability for me to talk to our teams about, hey, I want to talk about this. I'll go talk to a GPT and just sort of iterate like a companion and have it draft an outline of what I want to talk about, and then go talk to my content team. So the ability to accelerate things with human in the loop, the ability to unlock imagination, to me is incredible. I think, but we take it as, oh, it's AI generated content. I can see it from a mile away. I think there's a understanding of how to use these things. And right now, I think there is a mismatch of what's happening and sometimes people feel very threatened on the content side that it's taking away my job. Whereas to me, it's really giving you superpowers in some way if you use it properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And both on the writing side and the creative side, both, because content is not just about words.
Whatever your content looks like, it has to live somewhere. For most of us, that's a website, and for some of our respondents, that's bad news. 48% said they have little or no website personalization, and 40% said their sites create confusing journeys with friction points and dead ends.
I mean, again, I'm not surprised by the responses here, but I do think there is so much opportunity ahead of us. And some of it is like, how prioritized is your website? Like, are we investing in the website? Do we think of it as like a conversion engine? Most B2B marketers do, but it's more complicated than it would be if you're in like a B2C organization and you can track revenue to it. Again, it comes back to attribution. Again, it comes back to like proving your worth and proving the value of the investment, which, I think can hold some teams back depending on your organizational structure. And that's probably where you're seeing maybe not investment in personalization and that kind of a thing. Because at the end of the day, it is an investment. I think from a website perspective, we've always historically approached it as there's a human that's going to figure out the customer journey and is going to structure the website accordingly. I think the future of this is the website is going to adjust to the customer journey, and there's going to be a lot of like dynamic personalization happening so that you're not having to, there's no way to personalize your website for all of the visitors that are joining it, right? Like you have got to have some machine intervention here that's helping to guide the customer and serving up the content and the personalization for it. So that's the future of websites. Like it's happening now. It's going to continue to happen. And I think it's going to continue to get better.
I think this is also an area where there's been huge innovation already that is starting to show up. Platforms like Webflow are displacing WordPress and AEM and Contentful and Sitecores of the world that were very IT driven. They were sort of built for very specific skill sets. So they were developer led. And so anytime I needed to make a change, I had to go to developer. Maybe I could do as a marketer certain things. Now you got stuff that is much more easy to use. It's built on a design system so things can happen, so that things can get assembled really quickly and updated in a very governed manner. The systems are built to support not just publishing for humans, but publishing for LLM. So all the markup stuff is included. So I think if there's one area where there's a lot of cool stuff happening on the technology side, this is a pretty interesting area. And then being able to stitch it to your tech stack. So, we use Webflow optimized for personalization with demand base that's integrated. So a person who's got signals can now, in real time, when they're coming to your website, uses that data to optimize the content that's being served up to them. It could be as simple as someone saw an SEM ad that talked about ABC persona for healthcare. And when they came to the demand-based landing page, it now is talking to them in that same tone. Just that one action reduces your bounce rate by 50%. It's insane, right? It's context. So I think context would be really important. I think the other area that is pretty interesting and that sort of ties it together is analytics. Content teams, the web teams, the creative teams, the marketing teams don't look at data of who's consuming what where. The new platforms are enabling that in platform. So you don't have to go to your analytics team to give you data. It's right there when you're looking at it. So part of it is also bringing it together in a way it's accessible at the time you need it. Because right now, each one of that is an Asana task. And so it just breaks it down. So yeah, all of this is super important. And I think this is an area where there's a lot of cool stuff happening. So I'm stoked we talked about these topics with you all as a team. So that's sort of a wrap for today, and really appreciate everyone sort of giving us the time.
Uzair's right. We do appreciate you giving us the time, but it doesn't have to be a wrap just yet. If you want to catch the full conversation, including the maestro behind the survey, Doug Barth at GatePoint Research, the full unedited version of the conversation is available at the link below. For Uzair, Janelle, and everyone at both Iron Horse and Demand Base, I'm Alex Jonathan Brown, hoping you get out there, get discovered, and get chosen.